Greetings of the day. I extend a very warm welcome to all the audiences to this lecture. We shall be discussing today India and its neighbors and briefly touch upon the foreign policy adopted by India. India is surrounded by 6 nations, namely Pakistan, China, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh and Myanmar. Going by the size, China is the largest, hence we will start with China. China is our largest neighbor and its size is almost 3 times the size of India. Its economy is also 6 times that of India, and China is the most populated country in the world also with 139 crores of citizens, whereas India is only having 135 crores. China shares a 4,000 plus kilometers long boundary with Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh, and India and China have boundary disputes in regions of Ladakh and Arunachal Pradesh. Cultural and economic relationship between China and India date back to ancient times. The Silk Road or Silk Route, which was earlier known as, served as a major trade route between India and China, but it also credited for facilitating the spread of Buddhism from India to North India. However, in modern times, India and its relationship with China have deteriorated. India has had a war with China in 1962 and several smaller conflicts in 1967, 87, 2013, 2017 and recently in June 2020. In 1834, the Sikh Empire in North America annexed Aksai Chin into the then state of Jammu. In 1846, the British defeated the Sikh Empire and included Aksai Chin into British India. In 1948, when India gained freedom, Aksai Chin became part of India. However, China never acknowledged that Aksai Chin is part of India. In 1962, China defeated India in a short war and occupied Aksai Chin. The ceasefire line declared in 1962 is called Line of Actual Control. However, India and China have slightly different interpretations and perceptions of Line of Actual Control, which has led to repeated conflict. The recent one at Galwan, wherein India lost 20 of its soldiers and China lost 40 plus. Festering dispute between India and China has not prevented both the countries from scaling up trade relations. Bilateral trade between China and India touched 124 billion US dollars in 2017 and 18. Despite occasional hiccups, both countries realize that they have a lot to benefit from better relations with each other. China stated its position that Sino-India ties could be the most important bilateral partnership of the centuries. The next country is Nepal, that is also located in the north of India. Nepal shares a land border with Uttarakhand, UP, Bihar and Sikkim. India and Nepal have shared linguistics, marital, religious, cultural ties at people-to-people level for centuries. In 1950, both countries signed the Indo-Nepal Treaty of Peace and Friendship that defined security relations between the two countries. The treaty also granted Nepalese the same economic and educational opportunities as Indian citizens in India, while accounting for preferential treatment to Indian citizens and businesses compared to other nationalities in Nepal. The Indo-Nepal border is open. Nepalese and Indian nationals may move freely across the border without passport or visa and may live and work in either of the country. India is Nepal's largest trade partner and largest source of foreign investment. Besides providing transit for almost entire third world trade of Nepal, India accounts for over 2/3 of Nepal's merchandise trade. About 1/3 of the trade in services and 1/3 in foreign direct investments. Almost 100% of petroleum supplies and a significant share of inward remittance on account of pensioners, professionals and working in India. And Nepal's neighborhood has Bhutan. Bhutan shares about 605 kilometers border with India along the states of Arunachal Pradesh, Sikkim, Assam and West Bengal. The bilateral relationship between Himalaya Kingdom of Bhutan and India have been traditionally close, and both countries share a special relationship, and Bhutan is strategically located and very close to China border-wise. India remains influential over Bhutan's foreign policy, defense and commerce. India is Bhutan's largest trading partner, accounting for 98% of its export and 90% of its imports. Coming on to Bhutan's beneficiary, Bhutan gets major foreign aid from India. On the north or western front of India lies Pakistan. Pakistan is our second largest neighbor in terms of both size and population. It shares the boundary of 3,300 kilometers. The Indian states of Jammu Kashmir, Punjab, Rajasthan, Gujarat, they are located or sharing a border with Pakistan. Both India and Pakistan were part of British India until 1947. In 1947, when the British decided to leave India, British India was split into two countries, India and Pakistan. India is a secular country with a Hindu majority, while Pakistan is an Islamic country with Muslim majority. India and Pakistan have fought 4 wars from 1948, 1965, 1971 and recently Kargil war in 1999. In all these wars, India defeated Pakistan without any doubt. In 1947, when India and Pakistan gained freedom from British, the Maharaja of Kashmir, Hari Singh, was yet to decide whether his state should join India or Pakistan. However, without waiting for his decision, the Pakistani army invaded Kashmir. The Maharaja was thus forced to join India, and India then fought a war with Pakistan in 1948. To bring the war to an end, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru went to the United Nations. The United Nations told Pakistan to vacate 1/3 of Kashmir under its occupation so that referendum could be held to ascertain the will of the people. people were to decide whether they want to go to China or they want to go with Pakistan. Sorry, not China. It was to decide whether they want to go to Pakistan or India. However, Pakistan has refused to vacate those territories, and those territories are known as Pakistan occupied Kashmir, besides Gilgit and Baltistan. And these very territories led to conflict between India and Pakistan in 1965, 71 and 1990 as well. In 1965, Pakistan initiated a war by attacking India in Kashmir. Pakistan expected that war would remain confined to Kashmir, where the geography favors Pakistan militarily. However, India opened other fronts, and Rajasthan borders as well as Punjab, but fronts were also opened. Pakistan asked Russia to mediate in the ceasefire between two nations, and we will extensively talk about 1970 war subsequently while dealing with Bangladesh. And that led to Tashkent Agreement in 1965, and in 71 the ceasefire resulted in Shimla Agreement between India and Pakistan. In 1999, Pakistan Army in plain clothes crossed the LOC and occupied positions in Kargil while claiming to be Kashmiri freedom fighters. However, Indian Air Force and Army relentlessly fought the intruders and forced them to back out. Pakistan faced a lot of international criticism as a result of their defeat for Derakal and Kargil. Pakistan has also been supporting terrorism against India in Punjab and Kashmir for many years. In recent times, Pakistan has sponsored terror attacks such as in 2002 Parliament attack, 2008 Mumbai attack, and 2017 Uri attack, and in 2019 Pulwama attack, and also Pathankot Airways. Now we shall deal with Bangladesh. Bangladesh is located towards east of India and borders the Indian state of West Bengal, Assam, Meghalaya, Tripura and Mizoram. Until 1971, Bangladesh was part of Pakistan and was known as East Pakistan. The people of East Pakistan or Bangladesh were Bengali speaking. The people of West Pakistan were mainly Urdu or Punjabi speaking. Bangladesh came into existence in 1971 after India defeated Pakistan in a war to free Bangladesh from operations of Pakistan Army, in which West Pakistanis were in a majority. India and Bangladesh have steadily been solving dispute between themselves and enhancing mutual cooperation. In 1971, India and Bangladesh signed Fracka Accord, a landmark water sharing treaty to end water dispute between two nations. In 2011, India and Bangladesh settled several outstanding border disputes with each other. However, India is still concerned about the flow of illegal migrants, which led to passage of two bills, CAA and NRC, smuggling of goods, fake currency from Bangladesh to eastern India. And there are certain smaller issues like fake currency and transit and transshipment arrangements. Coming on to Bangladesh border, another country is Myanmar. Myanmar borders the Indian states of Mizoram, Manipur, Nagaland, Arunachal Pradesh in northeast India. Bilateral relation between Myanmar and India encompass the political, economic, socio-cultural relations that exist between two neighbors. Political relations have improved considerably since 1993, overcoming tension related to drug trafficking, the suppression of democracy and rule of military junta in Myanmar. Political leaders from both countries meet regularly on bilateral basis and within Asian plus 6 communities. Economic relations are considered very important, with India representing Myanmar's fourth largest export market, the country's fifth largest import partner also. And then come on to our southern neighbor, Sri Lanka. India and Sri Lanka share a maritime border and separated from each other by Pak states. India is the only neighbor of Sri Lanka. Both nations occupy a strategic position in South Asia and have sought to build a common security umbrella in the Indian Ocean. There are deep racial, cultural links between the two nations. The two countries are also close. Excuse me. The two countries are also close on economic terms, with India being the island's largest trading partner. An agreement to establish a single market, including India and Sri Lanka, is also under discussion at advanced stage. The bilateral relationship between India and Sri Lanka, have been tested by Sri Lanka during civil war, and also the controversy of Indian intervention during the war. However, in recent years, Sri Lanka has moved closer to China, especially in terms of naval agreement. India has signed nuclear energy deal to improve relations with India. India made a nuclear energy pact with Sri Lanka in 2015. With the neighboring nations, we have finished. Now we will touch upon briefly on the foreign policy adopted by India and also certain issues which have come up during interaction between the nations. Foreign policy of any country is determined by its national interest. Primary goal of any foreign policy is economic, military, cultural relationship with other nations. In the past, the foreign policy was dictated by the military and defense needs of a nation. However, it has undergone drastic change. Now the aspect of trade, finance, energy, economy, globalization dictate the foreign policy of any country. Foreign policy also has direct impact on its neighboring nations. These days, foreign policy is also impacted by border issues, terrorism, trade deficit, and instability in the region. In foreign policy, there is nothing permanent. Yes, national interests are only permanent, not the policy. Let us have a very quick peep into India's national policy. Between 1950 to 1971, world had two blocks, USA and USSR. Though India maintained equidistance from both the nations, from both the blocks, but indirectly it was closer to USSR because USS was willing to provide us with defense equipment to meet our needs at highly subsidized rates. And from 1955, India followed Panchsheel principles or peaceful coexistence, wherein the countries involved were to respect for territorial sovereignty, non-aggression, non-interference in the internal affairs, equality of the nations, and peaceful coexistence. This policy of Panchsheel is only on the paper these days. Then we migrated to NAM, that is called non-alignment, in 1961. To begin with, NAM had only 28 nations, but now there are 128 nations. It is also sort of sleeping beauty as of now. Disintegration of Soviet Union led to the world to come to unipolar from bipolar. Now foreign policy is dictated by emergence of market forces, economic interest, energy requirements, globalization, terrorism, and nuclear. Till 2015, India was firm on its policy. But in 2015, India changed its policy to look toward the eastern countries, thereby involving Asians. There are 10 nations in the east side of India: Bangladesh, Myanmar, Japan, Australia, China, etc. And in East Look policy, the emphasis was on free trade agreements between other neighboring nations like Laos, Thailand, Vietnam, and Bangladesh. Now there is a need to look west also. Western Asia looks toward India, Middle Eastern countries, Arab nations, South Asia, Kuwait, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman. A nation is run by energy, whether it is oil or gas. And these nations can give us a lot of oil and gas. If Israel and Palestine, Saudi Arabia and Iran could balance their foreign policies despite so many hurdles, there is absolutely nothing which can stop India. Historically, India's foreign policy was dictated by strategic timidity, poor planning, and now also we have got problems. Too much of concentration of powers in PMO, though we have got an independent Minister of External Affairs. The problems are going to be faced by us from South China Sea, which is a reality which we must not close our eyes to. Economic defense strength dictates a country how strong it is. Not the military, but economic. India has been insisting on China also to finalize LAC or LOC. But China is not at all a dependent or reliable country. It carry on doing things which suit it more than anything else. Its policy is, as of now, 2 steps forward to encroach upon the land and vacate one. Consequently, it never want to settle any provisions of fixation of LAC. Thereby, it can keep the cauldron churning always, to keep the nations around China always under turmoil. Because stability is very, very vital for any nation to grow. China does not want any of its neighbors to be stable. Recently, it has exercised its claim on Sikkim also, and also Turkmenistan, and South China Sea is already under threat. It has laid claim on certain islands presently being controlled by Japan. So India has to be watchful from its neighbor in the east and also in the north from China. Though it is difficult to decide, but accepting LAC or LOC as the international border would do wonders for India's stability, though it is very difficult for all of us to say that, because government knows better. Government exactly knows why it has to do certain things in a particular fashion. Let us hope that our national interests and our economic strength start dictating to our neighbors what we want in this area. Thank you so much for being patient and listening. Thank you so much. Bless you and wish you good luck. Thank you so much.